It's over!
He's done it again! Unbelievable!
Oh, straight into the roof of the net.
Nice one.
Straight down the middle. So a good performance from both teams.
Hi, welcome to First Sports. I'm Rupa Ramani. Let's get started. The Indian cricket team suddenly do not look all that comfortable when they take on England in the third test that starts tomorrow. The hosts are facing the heat in this encounter. Players are unavailable, and despite the win in the last test, there seems to be a lot at stake. England seem like they are in the right spirits, so lot riding on the test that will definitely shift the momentum of this series. Brazil football seems to be in a bit of a flux, and that is not good for the sport. It was not just the failure to qualify for the Olympics. The system and the man heading affairs seems to be in the thick of chaos and controversies. And is Fernando Alonso vying for Lewis Hamilton's seat at Mercedes? I can't help but look at the irony of this, especially after the dramatic fallout the two had while driving together. All of that lined up on the show, but first, all the headlines from around the world in Sports 360. We'll start with football and the Champions League. Manchester City beat FC Copenhagen 3-1. Magnus Madsson scored the only goal for Copenhagen. Kevin De Bruyne, Bernardo Silva and Phil Foden scored for the Sky Blues. Man City now have a 2-goal lead over Copenhagen. The two teams will face each other again in the second leg on the 7th of March. Real Madrid beat RB Leipzig 1-0 in yesterday's Champions League match. Leipzig striker Benjamin Sesko scored in the second minute, but it was given as offside. Replays showed Sesko was clearly onside, but it wasn't. The decision was not overturned. This created a huge uproar on the social media. Ibrahim Diaz scored the only goal of the match in the 48th minute. Real and Leipzig will face each other again on the 7th of March. On to cricket, the West Indies registered a consolatory win over Australia by 37 runs in the third T20. Andre Russell and Sherfane Rutherford both scored half-centuries while setting a target of 221. Australia faltered despite a David Warner 50. Australia have won the series, though, 2-1. After the match, David Warner announced his retirement from T20 cricket as well. So with this, he's retired from all forms of international cricket. The United World Wrestling, or the UWW, has lifted the suspension on Wrestling Federation of India, or the WFI. The WFI was banned after the Indian body failed to hold elections on time. This because of WFI chief Brij Bhushan Sharan Singh being accused of sexual harassment. The UWW has lifted the ban, but with a few clauses and riders. It has urged full protection of protesting trio Bajrang Punia, Sakshi Malik and Vinesh Fogart against any discrimination in WFI events. Kenyan athlete Sarah Chepchirchir has been hit with an 8-year ban. The athlete was found guilty of violating anti-doping regulations for the second time. The Athletics Integrity Unit, or the AIU, said Chepchirchir had returned an adverse analytical finding for testosterone. The athlete was previously banned in 2019 for 4 years due to abnormalities in her blood passport. And over in tennis, world number 3 Coco Gauff was knocked out of the Qatar Open. Gauff was beaten by unseeded Katerina Siniakova from the Czech Republic in straight sets. World number 6 Ons Jabeur has crashed out as well. Unseeded Ukrainian Lesia Surenko beat Tunisian Jabeur 6-3, 6-2 in straight sets to advance to the round of 16. We start with some cricket, and today we set up the third test that's about to begin between India and England in the city of Rajkot. Now, it ought to make England feel right at home. The stadium, that is, after the media box structure here, resembles that of the Lord's Stadium back in London. So there is some familiarity that they're heading into. If not that, then maybe the conditions. Talk suggest it would be similar to the second test, something in there for everyone. No rank turner this one as well. It's good to stick to what works for India. That's what the Indian think tank will be telling themselves after that second test, which they ended up winning. And I have to start with the Indian camp, though, because there is a lot going on there. Let's begin with the biggest elephant in the room, the absence of Virat Kohli. Even though India managed to level the series in the second test, The absence of Kohli in that Indian batting lineup is unmissable. The lack of experience, skill, that killer instinct and gut is evident. Virat Kohli also has faced a lot of flack for giving this series a miss, and I would like to say, let's cut some slack. Here's someone who always puts playing for the country first. At a time when there is so much cricket going on and players constantly choosing money over matter, league cricket over country, a bit of personal time that is obviously important to Kohli's mental well-being has to be respected. And let's face it, what his absence has very crucially showed the Indian management is the obvious gaps in that lineup that desperately needs filling up. Which leads me to Rohit Sharma, the most experienced player in that squad now. The normally cool and casual Rohit is clearly under the pump despite the win. In the second test matches, Rohit has only scored 90 runs. This includes, of course, his individual scores in the line of 24, 39, 14 and 13. Not something to write home about. There are a few reasons for this though. His own form, it's fine when India is winning, but when other things not really in place, then the scrutiny makes it a little too hot for him to handle. We already are aware of the troubles he's having, whether it is uncertainty over his captaincy in the Indian side or the unrest brewing in his IPL or the Indian Premier League franchise, the Mumbai Indians. There's a lot on his plate, and then there is the headache of more players now being unavailable. One is the curious case of Shreyas Iyer. It has been far from prolific in the series. He has scores that are not telling as well, and the series against South Africa too was just as lackluster. Though it says he has been rested for the remainder of the series against England, the main reason is that the board seems to have lost faith in his skills and abilities, especially in this format. After the last few test matches, he has been found against pace when they were playing South Africa in South Africa, and now against spin as well. That leaves a big gaping hole in the middle order, especially with Virat Kohli also not present. And then, of course, there is KL Rahul. He's also going to be missing in action from the third test. That's because of an injury. Devdutt Padikkal, his Karnataka state teammate and a key opening bat, has been called in as replacement, which leaves that batting lineup very inexperienced and open to attack. There is also word of two other newbies making it to the playing 11 in Rajkot. One is, of course, Sarfraz Khan, whom we've spoken about at length right here, who's been out of contention, out of the side for a very long time. And then, of course, there's Dhruv Jurel. Talks of newbies coming in is an indication enough that the board and the selectors are clearly looking towards the future and not the past, which is why, despite all the heroics that a certain Cheteshwar Pujara is exhibiting in the domestic circuit, is going unnoticed. And you wonder then on what plans the board really has in place for such adversaries or such disadvantages, like players having personal commitments that they need to tend to and are missing out, and of course injury concerns as well. There is no backup in place. Each test is crucial for the march to the World Test Championship final, and a single slip-up could prove costly. This is, of course, the case of Ishan Kishan. He's also not getting a look in. There is fresh talks now of the board being very upset with the youngster, who first cited personal reasons and mental health to take a break. The board, of course, accommodated that request on the condition that he plays some domestic cricket in the time that he comes back. Now, he has been giving that a big miss and was recently seen training alongside Hardik Pandya, his IPL franchise captain. Contrastingly, England, who were under the pump and came into the series with many question marks over baseball working, or whether they had the experience in place, seemed to be thriving. The loss has not pegged them back, well, as much as visa issues might have. The new one, of course, pertaining to Rehan Ahmed. But that aside, the vibe, the energy and the general mood seems rather upbeat, because they are doing far better than what many expected them to. It's also a big occasion. The captain, Ben Stokes, will be playing his 100th test. Massive achievement that, and it couldn't have been at a venue more apt. This is where Stokes has scored a test century in the past. So it's fond memories. And since making his debut in 2013 in an Ashes test, Stokes has been instrumental in the England side. Earlier, of course, as an all-rounder, as you would see the numbers, but now too, if not his bowling, then his leadership. It's a facet that is truly kicking in. He's leaving a legacy behind along with Brendan McCullum, and his younger teammates are not only aware of this, but are certainly in awe of his contributions to English cricket.
He has probably changed the game in a lot of respects. He has just got a way of bringing out the very best of him when the team needs it. For anyone to play 100 tests is an unbelievable achievement. He's obviously had highs and lows in his career, but what he has done since he's been the captain, he's been amazing, and there's so many special moments that he can take a look back on his career. His man management was excellent. He seemed like he's got as much time for everyone in the squad, whether be the physios or the doctors, as he does for his 11 on the pitch as well.
In fact, Ollie Pope also revealed something rather interesting, saying that the whole buzzword of Bazball that we've all been drumming up right from the start of the series is only in the media. He said that England team are forbidden, none of them are supposed to use the word Bazball here. That the team's approach is not just about attacking, but more importantly, absorbing pressure like they did in that first test, and they would look to do here on too. And speaking of changes, Mark Wood will of course look to come back in. Jack Leach's absence will hit England hard and sort of even the scales in this contest. Their key in the spin department though has also been someone like Joe Root, who you'd expect to deliver with the bat. He has proved to be an able ally to the younger spinners here, and he has been critical in giving those key breakthroughs, as he particularly did so in the first test in Hyderabad. Suddenly, what looked like a contest that was tilted heavily towards the hosts and in their favour seems to be balanced and quite tight. England is making this count and are doing their bit to put India under pressure, making for a very interesting clash come 15th. Now, when one mentions club football, Real Madrid, Barcelona, AC Milan, Manchester United, Liverpool, now these are some of the names that immediately come to mind. So when one mentions international football, the first word or the first country that crops up, of course, is Brazil. And why not? It's been the most successful team in the history of the game. A team that had a superstar in every era. If it was Pele ruling the world in the 50s and the 60s, it was Ronaldo in the 90s and 2000s. And it didn't just stop there. The yellow jersey was graced by players like Ronaldinho, Kaká, Cafu, Roberto Carlos. The current lot that has stars like Neymar and Vinicius Jr., names that I just took, aren't simply a reflection of Brazil's domination in football, but also a glimpse of what Brazil in football means. A team that has won 5 World Cups, 9 Copa America titles and 9 Olympic medals that includes 2 golds, 5 silvers and 2 bronze medals. Just like how you cannot imagine life without oxygen, the sporting world cannot imagine football without Brazil in it. And that's why when we talk of crisis in a country's sporting system, we can't think of Brazil immediately. Yet here we are. Brazilian football is in crisis mode and has been for some time now. One of the most iconic and celebrated national teams has hit roadblocks in the past 1 year. And the slide is being felt on and off the pitch. The latest, of course, is their failure to qualify for the Paris Olympics. Brazil, who won gold in Tokyo and Rio de Janeiro, won't feature in 2024 Olympics, where they were hoping for a rare treble. Brazil were beaten 1-0 by Argentina in the decisive South American Olympic qualifier. That ended the hopes of a 17-year-old striker, Endrick, playing alongside 32-year-old Neymar for the Olympics. That would have been quite a sight. Football in Olympics doesn't carry the same prestige as that of World Cup or Copa America. But a failure to qualify is still a setback for a country with such a craze, and more so because of what's preceded this moment. There have been own goals by the administration, particularly. The president of CBF, Brazil's National Football Federation, Ednaldo Rodrigues. He kept pushing for Real Madrid coach Carlo Ancelotti for the Brazil role. He even made an official announcement declaring this, despite receiving no confirmation from the man in question, Ancelotti himself. This ruckus went on in the aftermath of the 2022 World Cup crash-out. The coach back then, Tite, stepped down after Brazil's shocking exit. The team was led by Fernando Diniz on an interim basis, and that's when Ednaldo Rodrigues went about creating more confusion. And that was not all. Rodrigues has been at the center of much chaos in the system. Brazil faced the risk of getting suspended altogether by the governing body FIFA. That happened some months ago when Rodrigues returned to lead the organization. This despite being removed by the Rio de Janeiro Court of Justice. Now you see, Rodrigues was a stopgap arrangement even back then. He had come in after his predecessor had been ousted owing to corruption charges. So the rot really runs deep. FIFA has often been vocal about rejecting government and third-party interference in its member associations and its workings. This, of course, put a threat on Brazil of being banned from major competitions, even possibly missing out on hosting the Women's World Cup in 2027, a World Cup without Brazil fans in particular. The Samba Magic, that would be a poor sight indeed. So FIFA held its ground. The governing body told Brazil to hold fair elections, and just last month, Rodrigues returned as the president rather unanimously, and all seemed to be fine on the surface of it at least. The question though is whether Rodrigues is someone who can truly take Brazil football forward, like the people before him have. That's the reason why the country grew in stature in this particular sport, not only because of the talents that they produced, but they had the right administrators to propel them in the right path with the right system in place, so that the sport grew and Brazil's place in football always stood strong and resolute. That seems to be on shaky ground here, but like they say in sport, you can't rule out anyone who is down. So the world and Brazil fans are waiting for that comeback and some more of that Samba magic. Now, the Formula One drivers' market has been reset thanks to Lewis Hamilton, after the British driver announced his shocking move to Ferrari just a couple of weeks ago. And that's obviously led to many speculations over just who will fill those big boots. Many drivers have been linked to replace Lewis Hamilton at Mercedes. While Carlos Sainz seems like an ideal swap deal for Mercedes, a new driver has put up his candidature before the start of the season itself. Fernando Alonso has suggested he could be targeted as a replacement for Lewis Hamilton at Mercedes. Imagine that. The man who partnered Lewis Hamilton, only to have a massive fallout with him, is now vying for the very spot that is left vacant by his foe. Fernando Alonso has in fact emphasized that he is the only world champion who is pacey enough, one of the few fast men on the circuit still left, available without a contract beyond 2024.
Lewis Hamilton's shock move to Ferrari for the 2025 season has created a lot of buzz in the Formula One market. Not only has it set up a brand new era at Ferrari, but has also opened up the debate of his replacement at Mercedes. Mercedes, who won 6 World Championship titles with Hamilton, are on the lookout to fill the big void. And they need to seal the deal, at least in their heads, as soon as possible. Given Mercedes' stature, a lot of big names have been linked to the Silver Arrows. One ideal candidate would have been Carlos Sainz. It's fair to say that no one had Sainz to Mercedes in 2025 on their driver market bingo. However, with Hamilton replacing him at Ferrari, a straight swap deal seemed to make perfect sense. But has the Formula One market ever been ideal? The market is as straight as the curves of the Bahrain International Circuit. One person has put out his candidature ahead of the 2024 season itself. Two-time world champion Fernando Alonso has suggested that he could be targeted as a replacement.
It was definitely a bit of surprise when Lewis announced that he was going to Ferrari. I thought he was going to end his career at Mercedes, but he made that decision. He'll have his reason. For me, logically, there will be more seats available next year if I want to keep driving in Formula One. I guess that's the priority for me. If that's the case, then the first people I'll speak to will be Aston, because they are my team. If that's not possible, if we don't reach an understanding, then there will be more seats available.
While Alonso expressed shock like many of us at Hamilton's decision to move, he himself didn't rule out the possibility of a move to Mercedes. After 2 lackluster campaigns with Alpine, Alonso joined Aston Martin at the start of the 2023 season. An impressive campaign saw the Spaniard bag 8 podium finishes. He also ended the season in 4th position in the driver standings. Alonso's current contract with Aston Martin runs until the end of 2024. His priorities may lie in sticking to Aston Martin. At 42, the 2024 season would be his 21st start on the circuit. And a lucrative move to Mercedes seems superb, especially where he is at currently. Another statement from Alonso that has further ignited speculations on this move to Mercedes was him highlighting that there are only 3 fast world champions. meaning who can set the pace on the grid and win championships. Only one available post this season.
There are only 3 world champions on the grid, and I'm the only one available for 2025, so I'm in a good position. On a move to Mercedes, there has been nothing at all. I know the driver market has started earlier this year, but this will not affect me in terms of preparing for the season.
But will Aston Martin let their star driver go? Aston Martin team principal Mike Crack has been expressing his desire to extend Alonso's contract. And he didn't hold back even on the launch of their new car, AMR 24. He said,
"We love Fernando. We have a very good relationship with him. He's an integral member of the team. We have a relationship based on trust and openness, and we would be delighted to continue with Fernando into 2025 and the year after."
While the team principal is keen to renew Alonso's contract, Alonso is busy throwing his hat into the ring for the Mercedes gig. Seems like he isn't on the same page as his team boss. The fact that Alonso has not yet chosen to go ahead with Crack's interest says something about where his own interest lies. Clearly, Fernando Alonso is not in any great hurry to renew his contract, and why would he? With the sudden opening up of something lucrative, he would want to keep his options open. And this picture surely fuels the fire more. That's Fernando Alonso's manager Flavio Briatore, seen with Mercedes team principal Toto Wolff. Briatore took to Instagram to share a picture of himself alongside Toto Wolff. The picture has added more intrigue to Fernando Alonso's statements and his future in F1. Now, whether he makes the move to Mercedes or not, one thing's pretty certain: the upcoming season will not be short of excitement.
We've come to the end of the show. Time for Last Serve. The Lakers Arena unveiled their newest member, and it was one of the basketball sport's finest. Just the perfect way to honor the times, the career, and the legacy, really, of one of basketball superstars, Kobe Bryant. That does it here on First Sports today. We hope you enjoyed this as much as we did bringing it to you. I'll see you again tomorrow. Till then, take care. Bye-bye.
From impeachments to inaugurations, if it's a political story, we are on the scene. The race for the White House is heating up.
We're beating Biden.
How dare he say that?
If it's breaking news, we're live with the latest coverage. From the White House, the State Department, and Capitol Hill, we know the issues, but above all, we know the players to bring you the latest in-depth analysis on all the key stories that we're covering. I'm Eric Ham. Join me from Washington here on First Post America.